Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The A Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host.
Have you ever taken a look at all the surfactants on the market and went, oh my goodness, how do I know what to do here? Rod here at A Better Way to Farm, where we increase yields and improve profits. And yes, guys, it can be overwhelming. There's 1,000 products on the market, and it seems like another 100 coming every single day. So what I want to do is try and cut through the noise and help you make a decision as to what you might want to use. When do you need what, and when do you not want to use a particular surfactant? We're not going to name any names. That's not what this is about. This is not putting down somebody's stuff or saying our stuff is great or that you need to buy any particular thing. What we're going to talk today is concepts. So I've broken down the use of surfactants into 3 different time frames. Option number 1, time frame number 1, pre-emerge, when we're going to do a burn down, or we're just going to put a pre on to keep the weeds from coming. I had a friend of mine one time tell me the best time to kill a weed is right before it germinates or shortly thereafter, and I agree with him. I think that was genius. The second time we're going to be looking at is what are we going to do in a post-emerge application after the corn is already up, the beans are already up, and now we're trying to take care of some things that have showed up. I was talking to some guys today that they only do a post-emerge. They have enough control in their fields that they have got things there where they're comfortable, that they go in with one post pass, and that's all they need, and that's fantastic. The third time we're going to talk about using surfactants is going to be when we're doing foliar work. And I guess I will add a fourth one because sometimes it's a little different when we go in with the fungicide as another time to spray. So let's dive into the pre's. What are we looking at here? We're looking for a product that is going to literally make water get wetter. We're looking for a product that hopefully is going to make those chemicals penetrate into the soil so they're less likely to volatilize. So we're looking for something that will really carry that chemical into the soil. Now, in and of itself, there are a lot of different products that you can use here, and you'll need to sort through which ones you think are going to fit the bill best. But we're looking for something here that might be a higher volume product, and we're not quite as concerned with about the quality of it as we're going to be into a post-emerge. In addition to pre-post foliar and fungicide, there are some other things that come in here. And these are the ones I want to spend a little bit of time on with you. Number 1, do we want a methylated soy oil? Maybe. If the chemical label calls for an MSO, for a methylated soy oil, I want to encourage you to do it. The bottom line is those chemical companies know what it takes to make that chemical do the job that it needs to do. And if it calls for an MSO, I want to encourage you to use that. If it doesn't call for an MSO, I would like to encourage you not to use it. Because our experience indicates that using an MSO is going to get some burn. You're going to ding whatever's out there if you're using it in a post-emerge application. On a pre-emerge, have at it. No harm done. The second thing we might need to look at is an acidifier. Why? Because we need to control the pH of that water. We know that the chemicals, most of them need to be sprayed off with a pH of somewhere in the neighborhood of 6. There are a few that need to be sprayed off at 7, and there are a few that need to be below 6. But here's what I would bet. I'll bet of everybody who's listening to this podcast today, that 95% of you have a water that has a pH of 7.5 or above. We see water as high as 10 or 10.5, and sometimes that's even city water or rural water that's city water that comes out into the country. The next thing we want to say is, do we need an anti-drift agent? There are times when we absolutely want to use an anti-drift agent. We don't want these chemicals drifting over and killing the neighbor's crop that's unintended, and we don't want it if we happen to be spraying near a subdivision or near some houses. We do not want it drifting off into the yard, into the flowers, into the trees. We want to keep that product on target and drop it where it goes. So an anti-drift agent is a product that makes the droplet size bigger, and therefore they drop faster and they don't float away. The next thing we might want to look at is, do we have an anti-foam? Do we need something here to knock the foam out of the tank? And my experience here would indicate that I don't want any foam going over the side of that tank, especially going down the road, because the EPA and the DNR would have the bright idea that there might be some active ingredient of chemical in that foam, and they would be right. And so we can help ourselves a lot by controlling that foam, and it just makes everything work better if we do. And lastly, what about ammonium sulfate? Because I hear people say, oh, ammonium sulfate, it's a sticker, it's a this, it's a that, it's an acidifier, and I'm going to respectfully disagree with all of that. In my humble opinion, the number one purpose of ammonium sulfate is to sequester minerals in the tank mix. In other words, if there's calcium, if there's magnesium, if there are minerals within that water, what the ammonium sulfate does was grab those and drop them out so that they cannot render the active ingredient in the chemicals ineffective. And so that's our reason for using an ammonium sulfate. And let me say this. I see a lot of products on the market that they think they've got an MSO acidifier, anti-drift, anti-foam, ammonium sulfate, and it will cure bunions on your feet too. You guys know we do not like the one size fits all. We don't believe in that because here's the deal. Maybe if I put it on at the certain rate they recommend, it has enough acidifier to lower my pH. But maybe when I do that, I'm getting too much anti-drift in there, and all of a sudden my droplet size is too big, and I lose the effectiveness of my chemical. Maybe when we're trying to do everything with one product, we can get ourselves in trouble. If we think that one size fits all and we're putting it in, we want to get the right amount of anti-drift, and we're trying to handle the acidification, how is it that we're going to know how much to use? Because if your pH of your water is 8.5 or 9 or 9.5, you need a lot more acidifier than if your pH is only at 7 and you're trying to go to 6. And so what we want to do is make sure that we're doing this correctly. And by the way, guys, just a little tip for you. When I was first getting started, we started out trying to use those pH strips to figure out what the pH of our water was, and that was not very effective for me. For about $70, you can go on Amazon and buy a digital pH meter, and I would encourage you to do that because it's an easy way to know and lock in what the pH of your water is as you're doing that. So we've got a good pre-emerge surfactant. Now we've decided, do we need an MSO, an acidifier, an anti-drift, an anti-foam, or an ammonium sulfate? We've made all those decisions. We've got done. We've sprayed our pre, and now that corn's V3, V5, and we're coming back, and it's time for post-emerge. We would encourage you that the products that are best for post-emerge are not necessarily best for pre-emerge, and vice versa. When we're looking at post-emerge products, we are looking for a 100% non-ionic surfactant. We want that product to work as a surfactant. We do not want it to mess with the chemistry of the chemicals that we're putting on. And what we're really looking for is something that is a spreader. In other words, does this post-emerge surfactant that I'm using, if I take and I have a droplet of water, this is how you can test this at home, guys. It's easy. You take a droplet of water, put it on a piece of saran wrap, get whatever post-emerge surfactant you're planning on using, dip a toothpick in it, but lay the toothpick down horizontally. In other words, don't spear it with the point. Just let the toothpick, the product on the toothpick, come in contact with the water and see how far that bubble will spread out. Because when we're going post-emerge, that's what we want. We want that bubble to spread and run. Hopefully it runs to the edge of the leaf, and then instead of dripping off, it goes around and wraps on the bottom side. That's how we're going to get the right kill on that post-emerge spray. Going in, and again, in the post-emerge, you may need an MSO, you may need an acidifier, you probably need an acidifier, you may or may not need the anti-drift, you may or may not need the anti-foam, and you may or may not need the ammonium sulfate. That ammonium sulfate deal will be told you a bunch by the label. They will tell you what it is that you're going to need to do there, and you want to read that and listen to it. As we move into foliar feeding, it's a great place for surfactants if you use the right one. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where that 100% non-ionic surfactant comes into play. Because when we're foliar feeding, it is critical that that solution we're spraying run off to the edge of the leaf and not drip, but go around and stick and cover the bottom of the leaf, because we know that we get a lot of absorption off of the bottom side of that leaf through the stomata. And then when we're looking at the fungicide or insecticide, a fourth time, but we would treat that a great deal like foliar feeding. Why is that? Well, think about where the fungi live. Think about where the insects tend to congregate. It's on the bottom of the leaf. And so if we can take that same post-emerge surfactant and we can put it on there and we can get that spray to go to the edge, wrap around and cover the bottom, we can be way more effective in using a fungicide or an insecticide. Guys, these are really not hard. It's just that right now there's a lot of confusion because there's so many different choices and options. And I would encourage you to reflect carefully on what it is that you want to do, and always start with the end in mind. Use this question: what am I trying to accomplish here? And when you're talking to the person selling you the surfactants, you know my favorite question that drives a lot of salespeople crazy: why? Why do I want to use this? Why do I not want to use something else? If they get angry, get a new salesman. If they don't know, get a new salesman. If they take the time and they explain to you why this is what you want to do, now we're barking up the right tree. Because guys, it's your money. And the bottom line is, in 2026, if we're going to be competitive and we're going to make it, we're going to have to do everything correctly. And ladies and gentlemen, I would suggest that this is not the year to just say good enough. Good enough is not a standard. It's never been a standard. It's just somebody who's slacking and trying to get by. And those days are over. That ship has sailed, and we want to be the best that we can be at whatever it is that we're doing. And when we're spraying is a very good time to be doing the best that we can do. Guys, if you have some questions on this, I encourage you to reach out. You can always text Karen at 641-919-5570. If you do that, someone from the team will be very happy to reach out and be very patient and answer your questions about why do I want to use what surfactant? When do I want to use this surfactant? And most importantly, when do I not want to use this surfactant? Hopefully you found some value in what we did here today. We would like to think that we bring you good information. And guys, we want this to be the most successful year that it can possibly be for you. And we appreciate you tuning in and giving us a little bit of your time each week. We look forward to talking to you again soon. And as always, we hope you're having a better day.